declarations and etc., if you could declare, as it's your responsibility, to disclose any pecuniary interest that may come up in the meeting. Right, so item 1, Mr. White, we have apologies, please.
We have no apologies, thank you, Chair, but Councillor Coulson is the one committee member currently not on the call, and I'm aware that colleagues are trying to contact him at this moment in time.
He's taken his daughter to the dentist with an emergency appointment.
Thank you very much. Therefore, take that as an apology.
Yeah, he's hoping to be with us. Item 2, confirmation of the minutes from the meeting held on the 1st of September 2020. Does anybody have any queries or anything else? I'll take that as a no.
There's no one tapping in the chat box. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we will either sign them, however we're doing it at the moment. Item 3, declaration of interest, which we've already done. Item 4, items requiring urgent attention. I have none. Is that still correct, Mr. White?
That's correct. Thank you, Chair.
Public forum, there is nothing in item 5. Is that still correct?
That's still correct. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The Hub Committee Forward Plan that's on pages 9 to 12 of your agendas. Have you had any additions or anything else to that, Mr. White?
No prior requests, thank you, Chair.
No. Does any member have any queries on this, please? Councillor Wood.
Hi everyone. Yeah, so I was wondering, you've got the recovery and renewal plan is not due to be reported on until the 1st of December. So I was just wondering, I was just thinking that's quite a long way away. I know there's a lot to do, but can someone kind of talk me through sort of what's going on between now and then with the recovery and renewal plan, please?
Chair, would you like me to pick that up? It's Drew.
Yes, please, Drew. I was just looking to see who was here. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Wood. Basically, at the moment, we've got the task and finish groups will be starting shortly for the different areas where we're looking at policy development. And we've got the hub members actually actively leading on the work within the plan itself. So, you know, no one's sat on their hands. We're still moving the work forward as well as we can. I think an update prior to the 3rd of December will probably be a little bit too early.
Right.
So the work is in progress is probably effectively the position at the moment. Councillor.
Okay. All right then. Thank you. Yeah, I understand that now. Thanks very much, Drew.
Does anyone else have any questions? Read the forward plan. Councillor Cheadle.
Thanks, Mandy. Just following up on what Drew said. Drew, there were 2 new working groups established by the recovery plan. Have we set those in motion yet?
Thank you, Councillor Cheadle. The nominations for the groups have come forward, as you're aware. I think it is with Darryl is at the moment arranging the first dates of those meetings. I can't say off the top of my head when they've been arranged for, if they're actually arranged yet. Perhaps Mr. White could just assist me in that matter.
Can I add, Chair, to that? Mr. Powell? Mr. Powell's right. We have actually got the membership for both of those new task and finish groups. We're in the process of trying to get some dates in the diary of lead officers and lead members, and hopefully we're anticipating they'll be meeting in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, that sounds lovely. Is that okay with you, Councillor Cheadle?
Yeah, it is, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions, please? No? Okay. So we'll move on to, I've lost where I am. Item 7, the A386 transport infrastructure, and it's a verbal update from Mr. Brooke, if he's here.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman. I am.
Oh, you are?
Yes, happy to give you an update on this. So,
thank you.
Since the ONS last met, there have been several conversations between myself and various officers at Plymouth City Council to agree, well, essentially agreeing the priority for cycling infrastructure on the A386. and that led to an action for me to have a conversation with Sustrans on behalf of PCC and ourselves and South Hams, because the A386 crosses Plymouth, South Hams and West Devon, and which I've done. And I've spoken to Ian Stewart, who's their regional director or regional sort of manager, I suppose, that looks into supporting the delivery of cycling infrastructure on these sorts of roads. And he was, well, it's Sustrans, so I suppose it's not surprising, but he was delighted to receive the call, and we had a really constructive conversation, and he is considering how best he can help us set out a feasibility report for a cycle route on the A386, and I hope to get that proposal back for consideration by, I think he said, the 23rd of October, so late October, and that's something that then we can review and seek a direction on the way forward. Clearly, any feasibility study would require funding, although the sort of scope of cost for the infrastructure at that, for that sort of level of report is quite low, so a low number of thousands. But it's a future conversation, but it's moving in the right direction. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brooke. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Brooke?
Yes, please, if I may, Chairman.
Yes,
sorry.
Councillor Sellis.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I was just typing in the box to see if I could. Thank you. What relationship, working relationship, have you with Devon County Council with this, please, Mr. Brooks?
May I just interject that I've been working with Councillor Davies on this. Don't know where Mr. Brooke is with it. So she's my go-to. So Mr. Brooke, please.
Yeah, thank you both. So yeah, we've got a good relationship with Devon, and through Hannah Clark, who I'm sure you're all aware of, and she's the appropriate lead for this. But the decision to engage with Sustrans is one resulting from essentially a capacity and funding challenge for cycling infrastructure at Devon. So and Sustrans would be involved whether we went through whichever route we would go down, whether we were led, because there's lots of people that can do design work. So, Plymouth City Council's highways team could design cycle routes. You could get a private sector consultancy to do it. You could get Devon to lead on it, or you could get Sustrans to lead on it. And Sustrans would be a key player anyway. So, in answer to your question, Councillor Sellis, we've got a good relationship with Devon, but in this instance, on this particular project, they're probably happy for this to be going forward. With their blessing, but probably aren't a lead on it, I would suggest.
Okay, I'm just interested because, of course, there's been a great deal of work. I think actually, Councillor Ewing's, isn't it Councillor Hughes that does cycle? I don't know.
Councillor Hughes is also my other go-to person.
Yeah, I was going to say Councillor Davis is more railways.
Yeah, we've been liaising with Councillor Davis because of the funding bid that she put forward on behalf of us with regard to the funding of the railway. But she's also acutely aware of our needs, desires for the cycleway as well. And because we have talked within meetings of ONS and things like that around that if the railway is a no-brainer and is not going to happen, then maybe being able to take away some of this Section 106 funding that was for the railway to be used to help fund the cycleway. Some of the Section 106 agreements actually have railway, the words railway and the route of it specified within the Section 106 agreement. But also some of the newer Section 106 agreements don't have that. So it can go towards the funding of a cycleway as well as maybe being used for a railway.
Yeah, clearly this is a huge subject, and there's just members need to know that there's an immense amount of work been going on where the railway track might be put back in, but it might not be for your conventional rail stock. It may be for sort of clean green energy and stuff like that. So it was just that, for clarification and reassurance that there is dialogue going on with the right cabinet members and officers. Thanks very much.
Yeah, there is. Thank you. Councillor Moyes, please.
I was just wondering if you've had any discussion with the Dartmoor National Park, because if it obviously goes ahead, presumably it won't be a sort of an extra track on the road. It will go across land.
That is the case, Councillor Moyes, and there has been a conversation with the landowner and with potentially their agent, and going forward that way, so with the park as well. Does that answer that?
Chairman, may I
go on, Mr. Brooke?
May I make a comment? No, I just wanted to say that that DMP, actually I think there's an area that needs strengthening, which is the engagement between officers between DMP and West Devon on some of these cycling projects, because I learned through talking to Sustrans of DMP's vision for some cycling hubs, etc., around Dartmoor, which is fantastic. So it's off the back of my Sustrans conversation, and anyway, clearly there's an engagement with all stakeholders that needs to happen to give these sorts of projects the best chance of actually coming to fruition. And I think there's a need to link some of our aspirations more widely within West Devon on cycling infrastructure with DMPs. So it's an action that's sat at my desk at the moment, and I intend to get on and action it soon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brooke.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Does anybody else have any questions on this, please? No? Right. May we move to item 8, the future IT project?
Sorry,
update?
Chair, before we do,
Oh.
sorry, Chair, Councillor Spettigue's given notice of question.
Oh, yes. Sorry, James. I didn't see that come through.
Thank you, Chair. Only a quick one for Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks, am I right to assume that we haven't heard anything back from this application by the county for the Beaching Reversal Fund, just as a side question on the railway while we're there?
Chairman, would you like me to, may I respond to that?
Please.
Yeah, I contacted Hannah Clark in advance of this meeting, specifically with that question. And I'm happy to share this email with everybody that'd like to see it, but essentially said not much to update. They've got another meeting in the diary soon with the Restoring Your Railway Fund sort of team, and they have heard that because there's sufficient work being done, they may be eligible for being sort of considered as part of the accelerated proposal. So as I understand from that, there's sort of tiers to how much priority you get within the Restoring Your Railway Fund. But in reality, that's just it. Yes. So they haven't heard if they're successful. They are continuing to lobby. They have a meeting soon. It sounds sort of, I suppose, slightly positive, but no commitment yet.
Understood. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Chairman. Do we have anybody in IT? Because my agenda has disappeared off my big screen.
Okay, I think we have Nathaniel here because he's already rescued me at the start. Are you still there, Nathaniel?
Yes, I am.
Right.
I will
liaise with
contact.
Councillor Moyes? Thank you.
Yeah, on my home number, not my mobile.
Okay, Diana. Yeah, she's gone. Right. So if I could ask Councillor Edmonds if he would like to present. Sorry, I'm looking for you on here as well, Chris.
Good afternoon, Chair and
Thank you very much.
I'm here, Mandy. Thank you. The current Civica IT contract expires at the end of January 2021. This report provides a comprehensive update on the progress of the future IT project, which was set up to procure, install and implement replacement software to ensure the Council has a modern platform capable of delivering a fast and effective customer experience. Netcall were awarded the contract to provide a low-code customer relationship management system, and Northgate contracted to provide development management and environmental health systems and a council-wide document management system. A progress summary covering all the replacement systems is detailed on pages 15 and 16 of the report. Overall, the project is on track, but the COVID crisis has affected the development of the low-code platform, as the team were tasked to develop and administer the discretionary business grant scheme. The new Netcall platform enabled a very effective system to be developed, which resulted in West Devon being one of the top performing councils in Devon in terms of processing applications and getting money into bank accounts. This also gave staff an early opportunity to use the system, and their feedback has been very positive. The report confirms that the team are working hard to recover the time spent on this important piece of work. The Northgate Assure system will manage the development management processes. The system is due to go live on the 3rd of November, with all planning applications managed by this system from this date, including the planning search facility. This is a challenging part of the project due to the large volume of data and documents having to be migrated and the need to minimise system downtime. Town and parish councils and agents will be informed of the changes to the planning search facility. The design of all the new processes will be customer focused to provide quick and easy transactions and meaningful updates. And I can also confirm that the project is currently within budget. A project of this size and complexity will inevitably carry considerable risks. There is an implementation deadline of 31st of January next year and an ongoing health crisis. A summary of the key risks is provided on page 17 with details of actions to manage those risks. In summary, Chair, I guess there's never an ideal time to implement an IT project of this size and complexity. But to do it during these unprecedented times is especially challenging. The project is on track to deliver by the end of January, thanks to the careful management of Mr. Ward, Mrs. Hump, and their team, and I applaud their efforts. And I think Mr. Ward and Mrs. Hump, I believe, are on the call if you have any technical questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Edmonds. Does anybody have any questions, please? I see Councillor Moody has a statement. Councillor Kimber.
Thank you very much. I'm just interested in how you're getting on with the document extraction and document import, whether you've done a proof of concept of those two steps or whether you're just going to try the import later on. Thank you.
That's a bit technical for me, so I'll let someone else definitely answer that one.
Thank you.
Do you want me to take that, Kate?
Are my notes still on it?
Yes, that's fine, Mike.
Yeah, so we've almost, we've completed the extract of documents for environmental health, for planning, for revenues and benefits. And today, as it happens, we're beginning to begin a trial import of the documents into the new information at work system.
Okay, so we'll wait 2 or 3 days to find out how that's going.
Yeah. So far, so good. We haven't had too many errors with the document extraction process, and this will be the first import in to information at work, which means that we'll use it to make sure that we've got the right metadata, the right information about each document in the right place, and then obviously then we can continue importing the documents.
Good.
But quite encouraging.
Yeah, let's hope it goes well. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Spettigue, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not exactly sure who to direct this question to, but my question is, in respect of how broad a reach that software has in regard to planning, does some of its function cover the previous functions of planning software, which resulted in a councillor not being made aware that there was a planning application which they might want to move to committee, which was actually on their ward? So is that software part of what's being replaced, please?
Shall I answer that?
Yes,
Mike?
please, Kate.
Yes, the planning search facility for this software is much more advanced than we've seen with the old Civica APP system, and it allows members to log on and also to specify the wards that they're interested in. So allows you to be able to not to miss anything where before things may have fallen through the cracks. So yes, it does cover that.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, does that answer your question, Councillor Spettigue?
Indeed, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cheadle.
Oh, thanks, Mandy. Well, to start with, it's not very often that we get the opportunity to give the IT department a round of applause, but this pandemic and the fact that we have jumped the gun on our IT communication, the fact that we're having these meetings virtually and it's all gone almost without a hitch, I think is to be applauded. The question I've got for IT is actually around that. Now knowing the sort of life that we're likely to be leading for the next 6 months, certainly, maybe longer, is anything either being done with respect to the likes of Skype and other ways of communicating, which we should be sort of watching out for, or in fact, are any improvements likely to be made?
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Cheadle. We're a number of us are taking part in the Microsoft Teams pilot at the moment. And when we believe we can deploy it to the rest of the organisation with the minimum of impact, then officers and members will be receiving Teams to conduct all of the meetings through, and the decommissioning of Skype will occur shortly afterwards.
Yeah, I think, thank you very much. I mean, our life can't function without this system working. And I have to say, I think Skype's been pretty good hitherto. So we're going to have to be absolutely sure that whatever replaces it is working just as well before we get rid of what we've got. Yeah, exactly. And the pilot's highlighted a few configuration issues that we can iron out and retest. But Skype, to be fair, is looking a little bit long in the tooth now compared to Teams. So, you know, we're aware that there's quite an appetite to get Teams rolled out now and working hard to do that. Okay, and will there be some sort of training package for councillors who are unfamiliar with Teams? Yeah, yeah. I want it to feel more like a handover than a deployment, so that when your machines do get Teams, Steve Gardner will be around then to on a one-to-one basis take you through some of the options, because with that extra richness of the interface comes a degree of complexity as well, which is probably worth us going through with you. I can't wait.
Probably worth going through with us, Mike. I would have thought it was essential, and some of us might need more than one session. Actually, I could ask a very quick question of Councillor Sellis, because county use Teams, don't they?
Yes, we do, successfully.
And you've got on with it all okay?
Yeah. As far as I know, it's been fine.
Yeah.
Had a Teams meeting this morning, and there were numerous people there. We tend not to put the videos on, which is fine. Suits me.
Okay, thank you for that. It was just I was aware that county have used it the whole way through COVID. Mike put it on my system for a meeting I needed to attend with DCC, and not having any training at all, I managed to get into the meeting, do what I needed to do and get out again, but I haven't used it since. So but I felt in the meeting it was okay, so it will be good for us all, but not many of us, me included, like change and learning new systems. So I imagine Steve will be quite busy, Mike.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the complexities that we've faced with our Teams rollout is to integrate it with the telephony. And I don't believe Devon do that. But what we wanted to do was continue in the same vein as Skype, where you've got one application for all of your communication, rather than having Teams for meetings and Skype for telephone calls. It didn't seem to me a sensible way forward.
Right, okay, that's lovely. Councillor Daniel, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Well, the last couple of questions really touched on what I want to say or ask is how it's going to affect our customers. And as you said, people get used to using a system, and is it going to be difficult for people trying to get onto our website, etc., to be able to do that? And has it been trialled? Or have we tried it out at all?
I mean, there are various aspects to the system. In terms of the CRM, so the low-code system, the forms that customers will fill in online are designed to be simple, and the system is much quicker, and we're able to make it a lot more intuitive. So that side of things, that the whole point of it is to make it better for our customers. The transition to the new system will inevitably lead to some downtime, although we are making sure that we're doing as much of that over weekends or in the evening, and if there is going to be an outage, then we'll notify customers properly. In terms of the customers accessing planning, their planning search again is a step forward from what we've got at the moment. Will allow customers to engineer a lot more about what they see and download documents more easily. So what we're doing is at the end point is to improve the service for customers, and that is in our minds with everything that we're doing.
Thank you. That's very nice to hear. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Daniel. Councillor Moyes, please.
Thank you. As we've just discovered, I have an awful lot of problem with ModGov. I understand that there's a new system being looked at. Is this coming to the fore fairly soon, hopefully? First question.
A new system for
ModGov.
Minutes and agendas?
An update on ModGov or some new...
I think Steve was talking about an update to the application that you run on your Surface Goes, but I would imagine it's just an enhancement to the existing functionality.
Right.
There's no plan to remove ModGov and replace it with something else.
Okay. The white paper on planning, is this going to affect us financially with the new system?
Are you referring to the government's change in planning legislation?
Yeah, the white paper that's currently out.
Yeah, I couldn't comment on the effect that would have on how it stacks up in terms of IT.
Okay.
Mike, shall I just, I think Councillor Moyes may be referring to this morning's training session where perhaps it was suggested that there could be the new planning legislation could result in a decrease in planning fees. And I think that's probably what Councillor Moyes is referring to. If that's the case, then no doubt that will be considered and included as we move forward with next year's budget setting process. But it certainly is an important consideration, and as soon as I guess we get further detail, then it will be factored into any future budgeting process. Does that cover the point, Councillor Moore?
Thanks. Yes.
Yeah, it's probably a question for Mr. Weimer.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Councillor Hipsey, please.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I know there's been a bit of debate about what happens when we finally get to meet each other in the council chamber, if we do. I think this is part of the recovery work. I just wondered if the new systems being considered will be adaptable so that if we decide that we want to go for some sort of hybrid system, we can do that, where, for instance, some people can attend live in the council chamber and others can do so virtually. I just wonder if that has been considered, please.
Yes, in fact, that's the assumption I'm working on, that meetings will always now, going forward, be a hybrid of remote users and in-person in the council chamber.
Splendid. That's really good to hear. Thanks. Thanks, Mike.
Right. Councillor Kimber with a question.
Yeah, just another question about the Netcore low-code platform. I think the current contract runs out at the end of January, but in 3.8 it says further development cycles will continue over the next 12 months. And I was just wondering what's going to happen after January to the processes which are not built by then.
The priority at the moment is to get processes that are in W2 and to redesign them and put them into Netcore. There are a lot of processes in the council that currently don't sit within W2 and sit in other pieces of software that actually may become redundant when we start using Netcore to its full ability. So the work won't stop in January. We'll continue working on other areas that currently don't have their processes within W2 at the moment.
Okay, so we hope to finish all the W2 processes by the time the contract runs out.
Yes, we do. The ones we're prioritising those with higher customer demand. There may be a few smaller processes that don't get looked at, but we're making sure that anyone that has high volumes through it, so is used regularly by customers, is prioritised.
Yeah. That's excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so any process that's conducted solely in W2 will continue to work in Netcore. And some of that reference to ongoing development cycles also refers to internal processes that aren't processes at the moment. So lots of the quite old, crude intranet forms for reporting sickness or special leave and so on are well past their replacement date, really, and we're hoping that we can use this opportunity to capture those on the process on the Netcore platform as well.
Okay, I presume that's going well.
It hasn't started yet. We're just concentrating on
going well.
Sorry, not the internal processes. We're concentrating on the external facing processes at the moment, yeah, and that's going well.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Right, Councillor Daniel, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask, will the new system give a facility to make it easier to live stream our open meetings to the public and allow them to attend online? Thank you.
Teams would make it easier for the public to attend online. I think it's more platform agnostic than Skype is. I think it will facilitate remote access to meetings through phones and Apple Macs and so on, which I think Skype struggles with at the moment. So, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Moody, you wanted to make a statement, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I would just like to thank Councillor Edmonds for the report and officers for the report today. I guess as lead member for Customer First, it's important for me to say that I just need some assurances, and I'm sure there are, that during the changeover that there is sufficient backup to support customers during the data, the downtime of our systems, so that was just one point I wanted to make, was that there's sufficient backup for customers, and also that any PR that is sent out from comms, it would be helpful if all members were sent, rather than just a press release that's sent to all members, that we can cut and paste and stick on to social media, because I think we need to get the message out that there is a potential that there will be a bit of a hiccup around the changeover, but the improvements will far outweigh any disadvantages. But I really do welcome the changes that we're making to IT. It's looking very exciting, and I've looked at the flowchart of the work, and it's going to make it so much easier for customers to be in contact by social media, by texting, by Facebook, by other platforms, which is excellent. That's all I want to say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Moody.
Just one thing that
can
only the most critical time for us really is the point at which we stop accepting updates to the old system, whilst we we get the last of the newest of data out of the old system and into the new. So that'll be the time when there is downtime. We can minimise that impact by leaving the old system available for read only, so that we can continue to answer queries and so on. So that's the kind of thing we can do to mitigate the impact, in addition to preparing to minimise that period of downtime as well.
Thank you, Mike. That's great.
Okay, has everybody finished with that report? Okay, so we just need to go through the recommendation. Sorry, Councillor Edmonds, did you want to come back and say anything?
Thank you, Chair. No, I think that's been a good discussion, good questions. I just get the feel that this is going very much to plan. I sincerely hope that continues. I'm sure it will, and I just look forward to the new system being implemented and enjoying the benefits, particularly for our residents, and I'm sure they will welcome the improvements as well. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edmonds. Right, if we could, the recommendation is that the Overview and Scrutiny Committee notes the progress of the Future IT project and the evaluation of risks. If anybody is unhappy with noting, could they please sign in the box now? Nobody there, Mr. White?
No one's typing, Chair, thank you.
Yay, right. If we move to item 9, which is going to be, is it going to be presented by you, Councillor Moody, or Mr. Hawke?
By me. I'll introduce, and any questions will be taken by Mr. Hawke.
Thank you very much.
Are you sitting comfortably? Shall I begin?
You may.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Members, before you today, you have a report from the regarding the Ombudsman Annual Review Letter 2020, which covers the period from the 1st of April 2019 to the 31st of March 2020. But as it's an annual review, it occurs every year, and now is the time for presenting it to members. But it registers the result of customer complaints that have been received by the Ombudsman from West Devon customers. But as you'll see, as you will know, West Devon has a two-stage complaint system. I'm just saying this for some of the new members who may not be completely aware, but there's a two-stage system. Stage 1 is where complaints are considered by the service, and stage 2 is when, if the customer isn't happy with the response from the service, it's escalated to stage 2, and that's investigated by the head of service. But just to highlight what's happened over the year up until the end of March, is that we had 159 stage 1 complaints. But, it's very encouraging to see that 137 of those complaints were resolved at the first point, at the first stage. So that's incredibly good news and really good work on behalf of the officers. And then of the remaining 22 complaints, which were escalated to stage 2, 16 of those were resolved at that stage, at the stage 2, before any went to the Ombudsman. Now, I think that's a really very impressive complaint resolution rate. It's a rate of about 96% of incoming complaints during that year. So really well done to all involved. Then you'll see that there are, if you look at the appendix B, you'll see that there are only 6 complaints that were submitted to the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman, and only 1 was upheld. And all the remaining cases were closed after the Ombudsman's intervention. However, it's fair to say that that 1 upheld case was a very exceptional, complex case, and the issues of that particular case spanned over several years. So it wasn't just a simple complaint that was resolved. But if you look at Appendix B on page 31, it shows the 6 complaints. It shows the category of the complaints and all the eventual outcomes. But you'll also see from the Ombudsman letter that West Devon achieved a rate of 25% against the average of 45% for similar authorities. But what does that really mean? We only had 1 complaint that was upheld, and this percentage indicator is not really meaningful when you have such small numbers, and may need further investigation and work. Because if we'd had 2 cases, that would have jumped from 25% to 33%. So, but I'd also like to draw your members' attention to 3.13.1 and 2 of the report, page 24, which explains that by contacting the customer within 1 day of complaint, rather than going through the 30-day complaint process, officers have been able to reduce or deal with 40% of the complaints in 7 days or less, which is absolutely brilliant. And in order to further improve the customer experience, we also now have a customer improvement manager whom I regularly meet with. We also have appointed a full-time web manager, and I'm in constant contact with her as well, to help improve the website so that customers can self-serve more effectively and efficiently. And that also ties in with what we've just been talking about with the new IT system as well. But it's just really to make the web page much easier for customers to access. Over the coming months, the complaints process will be reviewed, and how to reduce complaints being escalated from stage 1 to stage 2. And we're also going to be looking at which officers are involved in complaint handling so that we can better progress complaints. Now, so I'd ask the committee to, 1, note the Ombudsman's letter on Appendix A and the Appendix B, and also note the high level of action to improve the customer experience, and to also note the future actions by the officers set out in the report. I'll now ask Mr. Hawke to further explain the case shown in Appendix B, and what that was all about, and what is being considered regarding the Ombudsman's letter, the percentage indicator. And then members can ask questions about the report. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Moody. Mr. Hawke.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Moody, for that intro. Yes, so just to add to what Councillor Moody's already said, we have written back to the Ombudsman this year to ask them to consider how the data is presented to us, because as Councillor Moody says, it doesn't take many more complaints to swing us to the other end of the spectrum in terms of our current good level of performance. I think we are a small council. We do have a low volume of complaints, and whereas a percentage may make more sense in a larger sort of county or unitary council where they're getting a much higher volume of ombudsman complaints, it's not too helpful for us. So we just asked them to consider how that's presented to us in the future, and I'll keep members updated on that. In terms of the upheld case, so it was a single upheld case, which the Ombudsman hasn't yet published, so I can't give you the full details, but I can certainly give you an overview of the case. I can't share names or locations, those sorts of things, until the Ombudsman's got the clearance to publish the report. But essentially, it was a complaint about the Planning Enforcement Service and the timescales that it took the council to actually act on an enforcement case. As Councillor Moody says, it was a complex matter spanning many years and multiple changes of landowners. but ultimately the Ombudsman found that the council should have acted quicker and should have taken action earlier when retrospective planning applications were submitted. I think this is a case where a number of retrospective planning applications have been submitted following issue of an enforcement notice. So the Ombudsman found that the council should review that particular case, which officers did do, and Mr. Weimer, as head of development management, reviewed the case. And they developed an action plan which needed to be agreed with the Ombudsman and the complainant, who was actually a neighbour of the ground that was referred to. So an action plan was developed, and a small compensatory payment was made to the complainant for the inconvenience of having to raise the complaint through the processes. So, as I say, all of those actions have been remedied, and the Ombudsman's written to us to say that they are happy that we have satisfactorily concluded the matter and that we will keep the enforcement case concerned under review. I mean, I'm happy to talk to any members that want to know more details offline, but to be honest, it's probably better that the enforcement team have that conversation with you. But I think that gives a bit of an overview of the nature of that complaint.
Okay.
In terms of some other things to add, I mean, again, just to add in terms of what Councillor Moody says, I think while our performance is encouraging and we are closing down a vast majority of complaints at stage 1, there is more we can do to review that, and that's the piece of work that the Customer Improvement Manager will be undertaking. And that would include things like considering the timescales for responding to complainants. So currently, members may or may not be aware that our complaints process has a 30-day process at stage 1 and a 30-day process at stage 2. So actually, if somebody goes through both of those processes, it can be 60 days before they get our final response and our final consideration of their complaint, which is a long period of time. And we do find during that window that that attracts a lot more communication from the customer. So actually, we need to look at potentially shortening those timescales for responding to our customers. And I think, and again, as Councillor Moody says, just looking at which officers are actually undertaking those investigations, because currently at stage 2, the complaint is reviewed by a head of service from a different area of the council. So we just need to look at how best to review stage 2 complaints in the future, because as a member of the extended leadership team, I could be asked to review a stage 2 complaint regarding a planning application. Now, I don't necessarily have the technical knowledge to look at that, so I have to engage with the planning team. And I think it's just, there's an opportunity to review the process, I guess is what I'm saying. So we'll be doing that quite quickly, and we're looking to update our policy and procedure within the next 2 months.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hawke. Councillor Moyes, you have a question, please.
Yes, I do. There is not, I don't think there's much in the report. It gives the impression that the council would be taken to the Ombudsman. Certainly, I was one of 2 councillors that many years ago now was hoiked up in that circumstance. Luckily, it was thrown out fairly quickly. But I was told that, I can't remember how I found out that I was involved, but I understand that the Ombudsman doesn't contact councillors to get their views. I don't know whether that's still the case or not.
Is this in terms of standards complaints, Councillor Moyes?
No, this did go to the Ombudsman.
Right, okay.
No, I don't think standards came into it. I'm not sure standards, we had standards in those days. It was a long time ago.
Okay, but no, I mean, essentially, no, the Ombudsman wouldn't typically contact councillors. They would contact the officers. We have a central point for the Ombudsman to council, and we then provide them with the full case notes and the details of our stage 1 and stage 2 investigations. So no, typically they wouldn't contact the councillor.
I don't think that's right myself.
Right, in terms of the process or my response? Sorry, just to clarify.
No, not your response.
Okay, no. I just wanted to check, Councillor Morris. That's okay. Yeah, I mean that's the current local government ombudsman process.
But I mean, the councillor involved must have an opinion on what went on, and that should be heard.
I mean, essentially, in terms of the complaints, have the council done our job diligently through the stage 1 and stage 2 process? We would have considered views from all stakeholders as part of our own investigation. So that should be in the file. And if it relates to a matter that councillors have been involved with, that would certainly be in the case notes provided to the local government ombudsman. So that there is that route. But I mean, I can't comment on changing the local government ombudsman process at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Pearce, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Hawke, my question is similar to the previous one. I just wondered whether ward members are made aware when a complaint goes to the Ombudsman, because obviously we, as in the local authority, we are notified when that happens. But, you know, would the ward member be aware that a complaint had been made of this nature? Because I think it is important that the ward member is aware because of their knowledge of what might have happened regarding the enforcement issue, because sometimes the enforcement issue comes through the ward member, or certainly they are made aware by the complainant.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Pearce. I mean, as part of our standard process for ombudsman's complaints, no, we don't inform the ward member. Obviously, if it's with regards to enforcement matters, members are kept updated through other channels. But in terms of the complaints process, which is handled separately to the enforcement in a way, obviously in this case there was an action plan to be agreed, which I'm assuming was communicated with ward members, but I will pick that up and we can perhaps have a conversation outside of the meeting, Councillor Pearce. But no, as standard course, we don't currently update ward members in terms of the numbers of ombudsman complaints.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Musgrave, please.
Chair, thank you. Would it be appropriate to make a comment at this stage?
You may indeed.
I was had grave concerns in the early days about the setup of the council dealing with case management and dealing with issues such as localities, etc. I just personally struggled to find a way of using those departments. But I have to say that I'm really pleased that in the last few cases that I've been dealing with, I've noticed that the system does appear to work, and I'm really pleased that, and I think it is a reflection that there's only been this one case, although significant that it's enforcement. That's an area I still have concerns with, but I do think that it's very good news that we do only have this one complaint. So but I generally do find I now have the confidence in the setup to actually rely on reporting incidents in the appropriate manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Musgrave. Mr. Hawke, are you going to reply or no?
I mean, I think no. I would agree with what Councillor Musgrave said. To be honest, I think that the process does work well at the moment. As I say, there are opportunities to tweak it slightly, and our localities team have been involved in our complaints process as well throughout the last 12 months, which is where we've been able to resolve complaints much quicker because they have local knowledge. So we've been able to tap into that knowledge and resolve matters much quicker. I mean, waste is a prime example of where we get a lot of stage 1 complaints because somebody will fill out a complaint form because their bin hasn't been collected. So what we've been able to do is for the teams with the knowledge to look through those complaints very, very quickly and identify, actually, is this a stage 1 complaint, which we'll investigate over the next 30 days, or does somebody just want their bin picked up tomorrow? And that's the sort of thing that the model brings to the front. We can use that knowledge and use that as a bit of a filter of complaints so that they don't go into the long, drawn-out process.
Okay, just going back to Councillor Moyes' question. I think many councillors would concur that if a complaint is made about a councillor within a complaint, if you know what I mean, then I do agree that it is wrong that we don't get told. Standards used to be very much like that the councillor didn't know if you were being taken to the standards board. You'd have no idea. And, you know, I do think it's wrong that somebody has got the right to complain about a councillor and they have no idea that that's going on. And I would just hope that the ombudsman style is a little easier, that, you know, if it was a stage one and you're dealing with it, or they've gone to the ombudsman, you would be aware of it. So surely you, as a council, not you personally, Neil, but as a council, we would be able to notify the councillor that this was going on.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Hawke, please.
Yeah, I mean, the vast majority of complaints we receive through our process aren't about councillors, and if they were about councillors, through our own investigation, we would talk to those councillors as part of that process.
I think that's the reassurance Councillor Moyes needed.
Apologies, I may have misunderstood the original question.
Is that what you wanted to hear, Councillor Moyes?
Well, it certainly helps.
Okay, Councillor Daniel, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to know, will councillors be kept informed of any changes or updates made to our complaint system and in response to the Ombudsman's recommendations? Will you be bringing it back to us? That's what I'm asking.
Not currently proposing it to bring it back to formal committee. I think the changes will, on the whole, be minor tweaks. I think our policy will remain largely as is, but we will certainly communicate those changes back through the committee, through members, keep you informed through the member bulletin, as it's important you know, so that you can relay that message to customers. But I think today is just to let you know that we are reviewing the process. We will update it, and further updates will come back in next year when we can demonstrate how effective those changes have been.
Okay, because I would just like us to be kept informed of changes, that's all, even if it takes a small email or something, just so that we do know.
Absolutely, Councillor Daniel, we will do that.
Just summing up the importance of the members' bulletin every week, aren't you, Mr. Hawke?
Absolutely, it will feature in the member bulletin.
I'll go to read document. Right, Councillor Moody, would you like a comeback, or can we just move to the recommendation?
No, we can go straight to the recommendations on page 21 to review and to note. Thank you.
Okay, is everybody happy with that, as they've been read in full by the hub member? Any complaints yet, Mr. White?
There's a pun there somewhere, Chair.
Yeah, I know there is.
As it stands, there's no one typing their objections to that recommendation. Thank you, Chair. So we can take that as unanimously carried. Thank you.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much, everybody. And
Thank you, Chair.
I think with my minute to go, I have completed the meeting within an hour. Oh no, no, I haven't. Oh golly. Right. A verbal update from the Rural Broadband Working Group, please, Councillor Cheadle. Has he gone to sleep? Councillor Cheadle.
Yeah, I had difficulty unmuting my microphone, but I've now got that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can, good. Right, a couple of things. Some time ago, members might have recalled a statement made and certainly reported in a number of national newspapers about how poorly served West Devon was by superfast broadband. That prompted me to write to the minister who made those statements asking for more detail, and finally I've had a reply from the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, and I just thought members might be interested to know just a couple of the statistics. In West Devon, 88% of households are capable of getting superfast broadband. That doesn't mean they're actually subscribed to it, but it means that should they wish to subscribe to it, they could. Which sounds okay until you realise that of 650 constituencies across the country, West Devon is 614th out of 650. So we're right down at the bottom of the percentage of households that are able to get superfast broadband. And I wanted those statistics, and I wanted to know where they came from so that we can use them to lobby for improvements. We've been talking to Connecting Devon and Somerset, and I'd like to have been able to report the outcome of the latest meeting, but it was between Mr. Molyneux and CDS on the day that he went on leave a week ago. So I haven't had a download, if you'll excuse the pun, of that meeting. But there are sort of three things that we're looking to do. And it rather depends if you're interested in your own position or those of your residents. BT Openreach publish plans of where they already are going to roll out superfast broadband. So if you're in one of those groups, and it's quite easy to find out whether you are or not, just go onto the Openreach website and put in your postcode. If you're already in the upgrade program, there's very little we can do. You just have to wait patiently until they get to you. If you're not in the program for upgrading, communities are able to apply for a thing called the Gigabit Grant, which is £1,500 per household, aggregated together amongst the households that are in the application. It is hoped that that money would be sufficient to make it a worthwhile proposition for Openreach to roll out broadband to those areas which weren't already going to be rolled out to. So that covers the second group. It does require some participation by residents to get themselves organised and put in an application. I've just done it for the area I live in. It's not particularly difficult, but does require a bit of footwork to get all the households signed up. And the third area, which is for the ones that are still left out from all the stuff I've just been talking about, and that's where we're working with Connecting Devon and Somerset to identify clusters of or small communities which are not being upgraded and haven't managed to put in an application to be upgraded, and we'll work with Connecting Devon and Somerset to encourage them and to help them get into the programme. Now, the one sort of bit of business that's hanging out of all of that is if you put in an application to be upgraded and you've collected together all your £1,500 and it still doesn't meet the bill and requires an input from an input of cash to do the deal, as it were. We're trying to have a conversation. We are having a conversation with Connecting Devon and Somerset, who do have funding to help those communities sort of top up the difference, if that's the right way of putting it. So that's what's going on. By the next ONS, we will have been able to understand exactly what went on between Mr. Molyneux and Connecting Devon and Somerset, so I should have more to report. But that's an update for now. Happy to take any questions. Hello?
Sorry, I'd put myself onto mute. Sorry. Openreach have been doing a lot of work in Tavistock at the moment, and they are hoping that within, after they say about 2 weeks of them having done the work in your local area, that you can then connect into and be able to use superfast broadband, as they're putting in all the fibre optic cabling. So they're getting around the area. but it's just connecting up, I think, which is sometimes an issue.
Yes, one of the things they do, well, not complain about, but they comment on is that although they run OpenReach run fibre cables to the cabinet, which allows households to have superfast broadband, many households don't bother to subscribe to it.
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, they can only do so much. They can provide the facility, but they can't force you to use it.
Ah, yes. Right. Does anybody have any questions of Councillor Cheadle, please? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Cheadle, for your information. Okay. Item 11 is the verbal update from the Financial Stability Review Group. Who's giving that?
Thank you. That's, I think that's myself, Councillor Edmonds.
Hello again.
Hello. It's a busy afternoon. Well, thank you. The last meeting of the Financial Stability Working Group took place on the 18th of August, and the FSG considered the papers that were going to be distributed to members ahead of the members' budget workshop, which was held on the Tuesday, the 25th of August. I'd like to thank members for attending the budget workshop and completing the members' budget survey, which enabled proposals for the amended budget for 2020-21 to be presented to ONS and hub committees, and finally to Council on the 22nd of September. Council have now agreed proposals for the amended budget for 2021 to meet the predicted shortfall of £0.5 million. At the hub committee on the 20th of October, the medium-term financial strategy will be presented to members, and this will be the foundation upon which the budget proposals for 2021-22 will be built. The Council eagerly awaits the government announcement expected on the comprehensive spending review, and this will enable the Council to further firm up some of the assumptions within the MTFS. It looks highly likely that the business rates baseline reset will be deferred until 2022-23, and that consequently there will be a phasing in of negative revenue support grant as part of the reset, with a transition period over 3 years. The MTFS assumes that there will be 1 more year of the new homes bonus payments. Over the next few weeks, the extended leadership team will be tasked to identify options to balance the 2021-22 budget. A meeting of the FSG will be set up towards the end of October to consider the MTFS, including the options put forward by ELT. Members will note the Council's response to the comprehensive spending review and the call for evidence for business rates reform, which was circulated to all members in the members' bulletin. At the meeting of the FSG on the 18th of August, the group also agreed their response to the financial stability theme of the Recovery and Renewal Plan, which was presented as part of the report to members. That is the update, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Edmonds. Does anybody have any questions, please? No? Okay, we will move to item 12, the joint local plan verbal update. I'm not sure who's giving this.
It's me, Chairman, Councillor Terry Pearce.
Oh, hello.
Hello, good afternoon, members. At the recent meeting of the JLP board held on Monday the 21st of September, there was much discussion about the government's consultation on changes to the current planning system and the planning future white paper. Without exception, major concerns were raised by members which reflect the views and concerns raised by our own members. And it was therefore decided to draft a joint response for both consultations from the three authorities that are involved in the JLP. However, that would not prevent councils from making their own individual responses, and it was advised that we should do so. And Mr. Weimer is already aware of that and is in communication with the senior officers on the JLP board. It's interesting actually where different issues are thrown up by the proposed changes for between ourselves and the city, and I'm taking ourselves as Southampton, West Devon. The city has identified other areas which we would not encounter as rural authorities. So it's very what's coming out, but it certainly has raised a lot of debate across the country, and I don't think the government realised just what a hot potato this was going to be. There's a number of items which are on hold at the moment due to the COVID situation and officers being drafted to other areas to deal with this, and also the budget constraints. It is having quite a big effect. So the update on the local green space paper was the DPD is currently on pause due to that. The update on the SIL, as members are probably aware, the Porter report into the SIL system in Southampton and West Devon requires further work and extra budget, and it was decided to defer this piece of work until we got the updated information that was asked for by members. The update on the joint local plan housing monitoring and housing position statement, that highlights an overall increase in surplus position. So all three authorities are ahead of the time for providing the housing that is required within the JLP. And the implications of the COVID-19 are still undetermined as what effect this might have, with unemployment levels rising and the housing market slowing down, and certainly with new build. The governance audit report for the joint local plan, the overview of recommendations was set out, and the overall consensus was that things were very good and are now working well. Cornwall Council consultations on climate change DPD and a European Marine Sites SPD. These are still being worked through, and once again things are being delayed because of COVID-19 and the budget issues. I think, and the climate change action plan now, this is a potential here to join up agendas from across councils and explore issues together. Southampton, West Devon are working under the Devon plan, which is currently on hold. So I think this is, once again, is due to COVID and the financial issues from that, the budget issues. I think that is all, Chair, apart from the fact that I have some very unfortunate news in that Richard Grant, who has been the strategic planning manager for the JLP and has been an integral part of the team bringing the JLP to fruition, has decided to emigrate across the river to Cornwall. And he left now and a couple of weeks ago, and now will be working for Cornwall Council as strategic planning officer down there. We have a replacement, a lady who's come with much qualification and is well respected within the industry, and she has started today, and that is a lady called Jo Lee, who has begun in post today. And also we are losing Caitlin Murray, who has been a planning officer within the JLP, and it's very unfortunate. She's only been with us a short time, but she proved to be very efficient and good at her role. I think that's it, Chairman, as far as an update is concerned, if I am happy to take questions. Anything I can't answer, I'll pass over to Chris Brooke, if I may.
Okay, then. Thank you very much indeed for such an informative update, Councillor Pearce. We have a question from Councillor Cheadle, please.
A very quick one. Terry, you mentioned that Pat Weimer was constructing the response to the planning white paper.
Yeah.
What's the plan to allow members to have a look at that before it goes?
I believe it is being done. When the draft is ready, members will be able to see that. But I will check with Pat that that is correct.
Because I think there's quite a tight deadline on that, isn't there?
There is, yeah. We've only got a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So it is, very tight. But I know Pat has been working on that now over the last week or so, if not longer than that, actually, because I know that, the officers at Plymouth City Council have been working with him, because obviously he covers our two authorities of West Devon and South Hams.
Okay. Pat had a document that he'd sent off and was sending us a copy on the members' bulletin this week. It was quite a few pages long, so whether that was said document.
Oh, right, it might be. I must admit, I hadn't seen that. So
it was in reply to the planning changes that were implemented.
Okay.
It was, well, I don't know, it must have been about 10, 12 pages long.
Right, we need to look at that then.
Yeah, it was on last Friday's members' bulletin, everyone.
Right, okay.
Chair, Chair, it's Drew here. Could I just make a comment there, if you don't mind, just to clarify matters? I think there's two documents. One was changes to the planning system that have been proposed that Pat has responded to, but I think the planning white paper, the response is by the end of this month, and he's in the process of drafting that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the first one, Drew, was the response had to be in by last Friday, if I remember rightly.
That's right. They're two slightly different documents, though. But if we can get Pat to clarify matters for members, we'll do that after the meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much, Drew.
Thank you.
Right. If we move now on to item 13, task and finish groups. We have the engagement and consultation and the localities and clusters. I'm assuming they've not met yet, Mr. White, as they're the two new groups.
That's spot on, Chair. We're looking at having the first meetings in the next couple of weeks, when we'll look at each of those meetings appointing their own review group chairs and agreeing their draft terms of reference. So those will be set up in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much. And moving on to the item 14, the annual work programme. Please don't add any work to November's meeting, because it looks like it's going to be a bit of a long meeting.
Chair, I might have some good news on that. We may well be losing one of those items.
Oh, go on then. Which one?
Which is the RIPA, the Regulation of Investigative Powers Act.
Oh, yes.
Report. It's been felt more appropriate if that report went to the Audit Committee instead, Chair. So with the committee's agreement, we'll sort of move that on sideways to the Audit Committee.
Oh, yes, I'm sure they'd like that one.
And the other update I've got, Chair, as well, is at the moment, and it's been a long-standing practice, that the Financial Stability Review Group report as a standing agenda item to the committee. We're wondering now, with regard to the frequency of their meetings, whether it would be more appropriate to actually make those updates quarterly. So again, we're seeking the committee's agreement to making those quarterly updates as opposed to standing agenda items.
That's fine. Councillor Edmonds, I assume you're happy with that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm happy with that proposal. Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any disagreements? No. Okay. So that's two off there. So it's not quite bringing your flask of tea with you then. So yes. So any comments going forwards that anybody would like anything to be added to the ONS work programme at all? No? Okay. With that, I shall, the members' learning and development opportunities arising from this meeting, Mr. White.
We have.
Councillor Ball used to do that, didn't he?
He did, Chair. The big one which we're taking away from today is, of course, with the proposed rollout of Microsoft Teams and the need for extensive training for those members who wish to receive it as a minimum, be it one-to-ones or be it more smaller groups, but we are taking that way as an action in terms of the Teams training members.
Do we actually think we've got experts amongst our councillors that are Teams trained, etc. then? It's just you said if we should need it.
Well, I think there's an acceptance some members will be able to hit the ground running quicker than others, but I know Mr. Gardner is one of those trial users that Mr. Ward was referring to. So so Mr. Gardner will be our go-to guy.
Yes, yeah. Okay, that's lovely. At this point then, I would like to close the meeting and thank you all for coming along, members, and to the many officers that have been in attendance as well. Thank you very much. Your help is appreciated, especially IT today. Nathaniel, thank you. So goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, Mandy.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.